I think this is very timely. We just spoke about this yesterday when we were looking at the video by Mark Abent. Well, I guess you were looking at the video. I made the video. And the topic of icache came up. Now, I want to elaborate on what icache is and how and why it's this season's Jesus patch. How many Jesus patches have we had in the past? If you are new, I'll explain a bit further. Expand Season 5. I have to get back to that. Oh, and I want to make a video about Morphologists, fascinating character. We'll get back to that in a later video. But I want to discuss this. And this is a nice meme put up here by Zero Foxtrot, who stole it from the Leaks subreddit. And we basically talk about how there are Jesus patches all the time, and this is the patch that's going to make everything work suddenly. But it's never the case. There's always one item which is dependent on another technology which is still being worked. It's very incremental. There isn't suddenly a floodgate of new content coming out as this image so clearly depicts. And right now, icache is the one, but again, there are many other things dependent on icache to get done first before they get through. So I actually want to touch on what icache is in this video, and it was verbalized very eloquently by Fight for Anything here. I'm going to read this to you because I think he does a great job at explaining icache. By the time you're done, you'll be an expert on icache. So, what is icache? Basically, it is like a back-end database that stores inventory of all physical spaces, like planets, moons, stations, as well as the inventory of players and their ships. If you drop a rifle in front of the vehicle terminal at a moon outpost, icache is what saves the fact that there's a rifle lying on the ground, how many rounds are in it, what attachments, its orientation, etc. Now, this is not new. This exists in many games at the moment. The question is, how can starcitizen improve or iterate on this system? And we'll have the answer towards the end here, but let's continue. You can leave forever, say an hour later another player comes to that outpost and goes to the terminal. They will see that rifle on the ground and be able to pick it up because the icache server told the game server that there is a rifle there and to load it back into the game world because the player is nearby. Again, not groundbreaking technology. We know this already exists in some games. Now the special parts come into deciding what is important, what should persist longer than something else. Should a water bottle you drop persist for a week, a month, a year at some random spot on some random moon that you may never visit again? This is what icache will decide. And we get to that a bit later in this article, in this post here. icache may not save everything. It will need to do the cleanup to avoid resources spiraling out of control with junk, but it can have intelligent rules. Well, here we go. A water bottle might persist for an hour, a gun might persist for a day, a broken down ship might persist for a month. Now, this is actually pretty critical to dynamic missions being generated based upon things happening in the game. For example, you have some very important or highly valuable components in your ship. You go into a fight, your ship exploded, the wreckage is still there. There could be another player that comes along who specializes in scanning. He's got great scanners. He parks himself somewhere in the system, he scans, it notifies him there's a shipwreck here, shipwreck there, shipwreck there. He doesn't care about the shipwrecks himself. He wants to go sell the data. I'm just theorizing here. That data could then be purchased by salvages. Now, if your specialty is to salvage, you go look at the data, you see it shows you there's X amount of ships in this region. You can then go and salvage from those ships. This is all dependent on icache simply making that ship persist long enough for you to get there and salvage the good parts of it. If no one visits the area for a given time, the game can assume the player base has forgotten about it and has no interest in it. The icache server might use some of the info to feed the mission system. So in the case of the ship, the location might be given to a player during salvage missions. I think that's a wonderful way to generate content. If they're planning to do it this way, I see no reason why they cannot. This can help servers run a lot better because right now the single game server has to remember where everything is all the time. This is a big issue. If your ship blows up, if you and 50 other ships blow up, right now the game server has to remember all that. It's very taxing on the server itself. icache takes that load away from the game server. With icache will remember everything and just remind the game server where that stuff is when players are nearby. So those ships may be in a certain spot, but they won't actually be there until icache says, there's someone coming, let's spawn the stuff back in where it used to be so the game server doesn't have to be loaded up with information that is not needed. This will make it so much easier to have server meshing and dynamic server meshing, as the individual servers just have to tell icache where things are, and icache tells the new servers where things are when they take over responsibility for that area of the game world, spread the resources out, making everything run smoother. It is also being built with some sort of smart feature like redundancy and error correction, which will make persistence work a lot more reliably. So we're waiting for persistence. It's going to need icache, and I guess referring back to our great meme over here, it's just one more thing. And I don't say excuses. Yeah, this is kind of harsh, but it's true. There's a ton of requirements that need to be fulfilled before the rush of content does come. icache being one of them. Actually, here we are in the first post. Network bind culling used to be the big one. Remember? Server-side object container streaming. Yes, again. Who remembers? this is great. Subsumption for AI. This was the buzzword. When was it? 2 years ago? I want to say 2017, 2018. Subsumption was the big word. But let's leave it at that with a wonderful definition of what icache is. I hope you have learned something. If you like my content, guys, give me a thumbs up. Your subscription is appreciated. Comments below are great. I'll catch you in the next one.